Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribe Star. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Pill Nation Hangout. I am your host, Naroki5. This is episode number 374. We're doing this on May the 5th. Oh, by the way, everybody, happy belated May the 4th. I hope May the 4th was with you the whole day. I had to throw that in. So, for those of you who don't know, I am at Patreon as the Rookie5. I am at Facebook, Mind, Gab, MeWe, Parlor. I am also at, I have got a YouTube, but I don't, I just use it for ease of uploading elsewhere. I am also at Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, Brighteon, and MGTOW TV. I have specific financial goals. So if you want to help me out, you just remember to go over and contribute to my Patreon. And at some point fairly soon, I'm thinking I'm gonna actually have to update the Patreon. I wasn't updating the Patreon because I kept waiting for Subscribe Star to kick in, but Subscribe Star never kicked in. So the whole situation is for tonight is we got two people sitting in chairs tonight. So with joining us for the first time in quite a while, Mr. Roger Hanson. So Roger, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Roger Hanson. Appreciate being here, and thanks for allowing me to come in.
No problem. Happy to have you. And of course, Rearson, who's currently experimenting with psychedelic carrot juice. It's apparently doing wonders for him because it's keeping the gimp suit space aliens away. So Rearson, introduce yourself.
And I'll tell you, you're getting more creative every time, and I am in complete denial of whatever it is you think that is going on in my personal life. Although, if that ever were to happen, I wouldn't even want. I would not ever want you to join in anyway, because I'll deal with my own misery myself. Speaking of misery, I've been here for right from the beginning. No, I've been here from the beginning, except for about 8 or 9, maybe 10 episodes. Just waiting for my early retirement from all of this as well too, but I've already give you a heads up about that. When it happens, it happens. Roger, it's good to have you on, and good God, on with the show.
All right. So the topics for tonight are: topic number 1, Biden administration considering declaring a national climate emergency. Oh, wow. I had to throw that at 1. And 2, anti-Israel protests appear to be coordinated and crackdowns on protesters begin, which conveniently ties in with number 3, which is new anti-free speech law passes the House restricting criticism on Judaism and Israel. I have a strange feeling that those two are kind of tied together. Topic number 4, and this is the one that's been going around for a few days now. Women choosing to be massively stupid and choose the bear. Also, N4 or 4B also blows up feminists. 4B is a very interesting, or is it B4? Sorry, B4 also is a very interesting issue that's been going on with feminism. And there's a lot of curious things happening around that. Topic number 5, Daily Wire using quiet lawsuits to avoid dealing with Candace Owens. And topic number 6, Nick Fuentes unbanned from Twitter. That might actually be very interesting. So we will start out with, again, the Biden administration. I'm just going to say it flat out here. The reason why why I think that they're trying to declare this climate emergency right now and to try to hammer through these emissions restrictions right now is because I think the Biden administration is starting to get the hint that they're probably not going to win the election coming up in November, and they're trying to basically try to ram through as much as humanly possible, as fast as possible. And they seem to want to be, well, not seem to be, they're doing it in a way that is reckless and dangerous and potentially could cause the economy to collapse. But of course, you're just assuming at this point, to quote Kelso here, you're just assuming that the people in charge are sane and rational and actually have the best interest of everybody at heart. They don't. These restrictions are, well, I mean, Trudeau is probably going to try to pull the same sort of thing up here in the next 12 to 14 months as well. The whole issue with this is that, I mean, and this is something that I maybe should have been a little bit more on the ball with, is the fact that, I mean, the whole thing is that, I mean, this was probably stuff that they had planned on rolling out if, say, Biden had won in 2024, had won this year, but he's not going to win. The last time I checked, 270 to win online. Trump was at 295 electoral votes. Basically, he's almost at 300. There's only one of the flip states that's not currently in his favor. So, and RFK, although everybody, the mainstream media seems to be doing their damnedest to cover it up, RFK is obviously removing enough votes from Biden that there might even be a couple of blue states that'll flip. Who knows? The whole situation is this. I mean, and I actually have posted this up. I found a meme, which I'm going to share with you here once I find it on my phone. But I think it probably defines exactly what is going on with this. They can't have it, so they're going to destroy it or start a war or something else, because that's what they want to do. Even probably more so with Justin, who is absolutely not getting reelected in 2025, unless Pierre Poilievre makes a massive strategic blunder. And I mean, he would have to probably make more than one at this point. I mean, but yeah, I can't help but think that what Biden is attempting to do here is essentially trying to burn the country to the ground, so that Trump, basically what will happen is that if Trump gets in, he will have to spend the next 4 years repairing all the damage that Biden did. We're not dealing with sane, rational people here. We're dealing with insanely evil people who wanted control, got it, and now they're going to lose it unless they do something desperate. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Well, thanks for having me, Naroki. With a lot of the stuff that's going on now in the climate with politics, okay, it's really hard for me to say if or about it, because well, let me put, like, every election term, it seems like there's always, like, the majority of the time that a president's in office, the majority of the time he's collecting PAC money for his next election. You know what I mean? So by the end of his 4 years, that's when that president usually starts rolling out like a crap load of stuff that they wanted to do the entire 4 years of their term, and that seems to be the general theme with it. But at the same time, I get where you're coming from. I don't think Biden's going to be president for another 4 years either. He seems, if I was him, I'd be terrified because he tries to push out this image like he's done so great, and the truth is he probably is the worst president we've had in history. I mean, being serious, he's caused more harm than good out of any president that I can recall that we've had. So that's really what I've got to say about that, you know. And when it comes to climate, I kind of clump that into the same type of category as what I do with these GMOs, this genetically modified stuff. You know, when it came to the COVID and stuff, everybody opened up these floodgates for all these pharmaceuticals to just pour out genetically modified stuff, you know, to the public. And it now all of a sudden they're good guys, you know what I mean? So we've just got to allow all these things into our bodies because they saved our lives. Well, did they? You know, and they're just pushing the envelope on that. Since they've got that going, now they can continue with their, you know, agenda, which is freaking quote unquote global warming. You know, so that's all I got to say on for now.
All right. Well, this really doesn't feel it's any different. I mean, honestly, than the stuff or crap, whatever you want to call it, that we're dealing with up here in Canada. When the turd, as I like to call him, or turdo, is pushing through or has pushed through the carbon tax, where fuel just got, well, they slapped on another 15% on the fuel or wherever the hell it was. And as per the WEFers, the WEFers, they've all been about keeping the populace taxed pretty much to death. And I don't see this changing in the next little while. And believe me, as God, here we go again. The Americans have had a bit of a taste, if they were to look north of the border, when Trump got in and was dealing with the turd, and I don't know, I can only ask the question, how many more times can you be this stupid to, not so much stupidity, rather it's more of it being it's the definition of insanity as per Einstein or whoever originally phrased it. Keep voting in more socialist stuff. Well, guess what? Socialism costs money. So we've got to raise more taxes. And and much like what happened with Canada, I know that Biden has been sending off a lot of stuff and has been, the American military is, it's a bit of a catch-22, but someone's got to pay for it. The only problem being, though, is that government debt, as it is currently structured, can never ever be paid off. Now, I know that the Federal Reserve has been integrated into the Treasury Department, so it's no longer a private corporation anymore. Excuse me. But still, yeah, the system, in my opinion, has to break before things will get better. So, but people have to see what's really going on, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if, shall we say, the numbers for Polyev, who's the conservative leader, which would be the Republican equivalent of Trump at this point in time, if you had a parliamentary system like we do up here. But I'm pretty sure that the numbers between the two countries are pretty similar, actually quite similar, in terms of people dissatisfied with the federal government, people not believing in government, and people that are just tired of not just being taxed to death, but being treated as not even second-class citizens, third-class citizens in their own country. That's how I feel. I could be wrong. So I don't have anything more to say, my friend. I'll give that one back to you.
Yeah, just give me a second here. Okay, here. Apparently, I can only send one photo at a time. There we go.
Oh, that's messed up.
Truer than you might imagine, too. Okay, let's get into the next topic. Oh, what the? Oh, Jesus Christ, the timer's gone. Oh, well. I'll figure it out here in a second.
Hey, if you want to write it, if you want to keep some sort of a mental note, or do you want me to just tell you? Because I can't really type it in too quickly.
Well, no, I've got a timer here, but it's
Okay.
there's one.
Rocky,
Yep.
before you move on, can I ask Steve a question?
Go ahead.
Now, Steve, you said the Federal Reserve. Are you referring to the Federal Reserve in Canada or the one in the United States?
The U.S. We have what's called the Bank of Canada, which is supposed to provide up to 30% of funds required by the budget for the federal budget for it to go through. Government has to pay it back. That's what things were done before. That was all fine until Trudeau Senior was in. Yeah, dumb tits. I could see that happening too. Or they'd be screaming, "Where's the man? We need a man." Anyway, but yeah, the Federal Reserve was brought into the Treasury Department, I think, like the last year that Trump was in office, and to my knowledge, it hasn't been given back, or they haven't been given back their supposed autonomy.
All right, I just wanted to ask because I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
No, that was good because I mean I really should know that. I talk about the Federal Reserve all the time, so that's something I should have known. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, no problem at all, man. No problem at all. Okay, I got to read these. Back to you, Naroki.
All right. So the next topic is, and topic number 2 and topic number 3 are, I think, kind of linked together because, of the Soros thing. Now, for the most part, just like with the Russia thing, I had been the Russia-Ukraine thing before it actually happened. I was kind of ignoring it. And what I thought was going on with these I just thought it was Columbia University in UCLA. I had no idea that there were not just hundreds, but dozens of universities all over the country that had all walked out all at the same time. Some of them, obviously, like UCLA and Columbia, were worse than others. I first started get a hint of what the problem was when Alex Stein trolled the University of Texas at Austin, and the protesters there got violent because he dared to tell them the truth, which is that Hamas would kill homosexuals on sight if they saw them. But there was one guy who got really, really violent with him, and of course, Alex Stein being Alex Stein, he egged them on. But that's it's been kind of dying down. The ones at Columbia University and UCLA have been the worst. The ones at UCLA, in particular, have been filmed, have been recorded, harassing Jewish students as they're going to and from their classes, which is like unacceptable. The thing that really gets to me about a lot of these protests is the fact that, to a great degree, most of these universities have, like all of these universities have their own security, and they could have phoned the police at any point in time. And the fact of the matter is that they didn't haven't phoned the police or haven't called in the police at any time. They didn't even start doing it in Columbia until the protesters got so bad that they tried to storm the police station, the local police station. Now, as they're starting to push through all of this, they're finding out that a lot of these protesters aren't even students. There's definitely an Antifa connection with some of these. The fact that it happened all at the same time kind of ties back to Soros. And I couldn't figure out why Soros would be wanting to clandestinely send money to a group of people that was so anti-Jewish. But when we get to topic number 3, it actually starts to make more sense. And I will get into a deeper discussion as to why it actually starts to make more sense when we get to it. Again, though, some of the stuff that has started happening with these protests is, and this is something that also when we get to women choosing the bear in 4B, you're starting to see this, and I think this is going to start to ramp up as we go along, is that for the first time that I've seen with these protests, and keep in mind, I'm not white myself, but I mean, I'm glad to see them finally standing up, is that there was a group of white frat boys, specifically at UCLA, who saw a group of Hamas protesters at UCLA trying to tear down the American flag, and they went over and they formed a cordon around the American flag, and they held the flag for 3 hours before the protesters finally gave up. And then at another university, I think this might have also been in California, several fraternities got together and formed a counter protest and went in and challenged these protesters right to their faces, basically daring them to show their faces. And also, they're getting so foul and so, well, I mean, I know what Jaffe would be screaming at me, saying it's not anti-Semitism, and there's other people that are Semitic. It's like, I mean, they're openly calling for the extermination of the Jews. And when I get into topic number 3, I will get a little bit deeper into what this is, or what all this is about. But one of the what's happened here, unlike what happened, well, actually, there was a group that pushed back in 2020, the Proud Boys, but I mean, they got legislated and demonized almost right out of existence. I don't think that would happen now. I think the Proud Boys could probably make a return to Twitter. In fact, I'm surprised Elon Musk hasn't allowed them to come back at this point. But yeah, like you're starting to see, and this is something that I was saying was going to happen. They were going to try and do this again, but what you're starting to see is counter protests, right? Like you're starting to see the old white boys start to hit back, which is kind of like when I get into topic number 4, you're going to see, I will get into that a little bit more. But it's very clear to me now that this is an AstroTurf campaign. It's an AstroTurf campaign, which didn't make a lot of sense to me until you get to topic number 3. And when I get to topic number 3, I will explain why I think Soros backed this AstroTurf campaign. And like I said, I'm not necessarily on Team Trump, but if Trump does win in November, Trump is going to have to do something about Soros, and his organization, period, end of story. I mean, we live in a westernized democracy, and we have free speech, and we have openness to a certain openness, and we have tolerance. But I mean, it's like, like when you start openly engaging in activities which are designed to destabilize the country, it's time for you to go, period, end of story. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Let me just say this. I'm a 50-year-old man, or 51 almost in July, year-old man, okay? And when it comes to a lot of this stuff, what really irks me is when I hear people, talk like this is just some new thing, and it's just something that's so horrific, and the world's coming to an end and everything. And I'm a 50-year-old man, like I said, and when I was 5 years old, I remember watching TV and watching freaking news where something horrible was happening in that region, which usually consisted of Israel and the Palestinians. And it's been that way ever since I was a little kid, and even before I was born, And now all of a sudden there's a big issue going on where it's just some horrific thing and the end of the world's coming, And that always did stick in the back of my head. Why, is stuff like that happening? And I took time to actually do the research. And, before I get started, I'm not going to say that I'm pro-Israel or pro-Palestinian. I'm not anti-Semitic or any word you want to use or anything like that, okay? But I actually want to say, too, that I did the research. I followed the information and the money and stuff. And where a lot of this stuff that you're seeing when it comes to these protests is coming from is a group called AIPAC, okay? And the truth of the matter is like with this whole thing between Israel and the United States, Israel isn't even a part of the equation when it comes to the United States, and even the Jewish people here in the United States. The majority of the people in America didn't even want to go to Israel whenever freaking it was established. They wanted to stay here in the free or in the new world, and make a life for themselves. So in that aspect, I'm going to go back to AIPAC. What is AIPAC about? When you sit and you watch the commercials and everything, and you hear them talking about all this stuff that you need to donate money to, you're not understanding. This money isn't going to Israel. It's going to AIPAC. And AIPAC is taking this money, and they're actually, AIPAC is probably one of the most powerful freaking PACs in the United States. If a politician wants to be in politics, they need to keep their mouth shut and do what AIPAC tells them to do, because if they don't, then they're done. I mean, your career is over, okay? And George Soros, okay, when he takes and he donates all this money to these organizations that are protesting, what he's doing is he's creating an environment of chaos and subversion. And that is one of the that's one of the plays in the freaking socialist playbook. It doesn't matter if it's about Jews, it doesn't matter if it's about women, it doesn't matter if it's about black people. They are going to send out people who are going to protest about it, and he's going to fund the money for it. And that's the one thing a lot of people don't want to grasp, and they don't want to understand that this is all politically motivated, and there's money involved in it. There's and it has absolutely nothing to do with Israel whatsoever. And on these commercials that I was mentioning, like you have groups that I find suspicious, and the one that I find suspicious is the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Okay, now they always have this little old lady on there, and she was first from Russia, and then when Russia wasn't politically correct, all of a sudden she was living in the Ukraine. And now here in the United States we've got these commercials where these poor Jewish people have to hide in bunkers because they're being assassinated and murdered all over the place in freaking Israel. And that's not true. The people who are really getting hurt are the freaking the freaking Arabs. The Israel armies are the ones that are going in and invading their territory and killing them. But this group wants you to believe that these Jews are hiding out in frickin' these bunkers in fear of their lives, and you need to send them money because they need help and they need support. Well, that money's never going to go to Israel. It's never going to go to the Palestinians or anybody else. It's going to go into the pockets of these politicians up in Washington, because this group takes their money and they pay off these politicians so that they can have more power and more influence in Washington. So with that's all I got to say on the topic. I'm sorry, it might have been a little crazy, but that's just the way I feel.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Did Kelso join us?
Yes, I did. Are we on 2 or 3?
We are on 2. And you're just in time to jump in here. You can interrupt. You can interrupt Steve and give him more time to collect his thoughts. He's probably only on the second letter of his thought right now, so you've got lots of time.
Well, you have to understand. While his cabinets are being penetrated, it's very distracting.
Well, they can't be any more penetrated than Klaus Schwab and Trudeau. Anyway.
So, okay. Seeing as I'm coming in on 2, I'll backtrack to number 1 only for like 15 seconds or so, because the only thing I have to say to that, as far as Biden administration considering declaring a national climate emergency, fucking try it. That would only risk leading into the Second American Revolution or whatever the hell you want to call it, because so many people are so fed up that even the normies are starting to notice and be like, what the fuck? So it's like, yeah, go ahead and try it, Sleepy Joe, Mr. Dementia, hair-sniffing fucking degenerate, best buddies with the KKK. Yeah, you can go right ahead, see what happens, fuck around, find out. Streisand effect is a law of physics. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. So number 2, the anti-Israel protests appear to be coordinated and crackdowns on protesters begin. Well, gee, imagine my shock. I have more to say on 3. I think Roger said it all on 2, really. So yeah, I guess I'll wait till 3 because Roger made any point that I could have made on number 2.
Rearson, you're up.
Well, with what Roger had said about more or less fuck around and find out if you don't follow AIPAC. I mean, we talked about this before with Rashida Tlaib. I think it was her. One of the crazy 4 cunts.
The squad, yeah.
Squad. Thank you. Well, Con Squad would probably be a better word for all of them anyway. But I mean, it was either her or the one that quote married her brother. Can't fucking remember her name, and that's fine. You know who I'm talking about. No, I think it was. I think it was the one that had the semi-incestuous relationship with her brother. Either way, one of those
That would
two.
be Ilhan Omar. Yeah,
Omar,
but continue.
I think it was Ilhan Omar that was beaking off about Israel this and Israel that. She's been pretty damn fucking quiet ever since. So, and we did talk about that. And if I didn't know any better, I said that she got a very stern talking to and a talking down. And I could be wrong, but the bitch hasn't said boo about you know who or about them. Funny thing about that, though, is that there's Voltaire. I'm going to end it on this one because it's going to segue well enough into this anyway. The people you can't talk about are the ones who really wield the power. So I'll leave it at that, and let's move on to number 3.
Okay, yeah, number 3 is interesting. And I mean, when I started thinking about what was going on with number 3 got passed overwhelmingly now, so it's probably going to get through the Senate. Now, on the surface, it would appear to be aimed specifically at the unhinged protesters occupying various campuses. I don't know if they're occupying campuses in Canada or not. I haven't heard of them doing that, but definitely in the US, it appears to be aimed.
There are 6 campuses. There are 6 campuses that are protesting like this.
Yeah, and what you've been seeing, and I mean, I actually literally looked at them. Have heard them say it, is that, I mean, it's like they're literally like some of the people on these campuses, some of the protesters on some of these campuses have been like literally calling for the total extermination of the Jewish race. You know, I draw the line at that type of thing. And there's been a lot of, let's just say, specific targeting of Jews in this protest. Like I said, at UCLA, they've even gone so far as to go out and harass Jewish students. And there are a lot of Jewish students at UCLA because there's generally there's a Jewish faction inside the film industry, you know, nepotism, that sort of thing, not a conspiracy. There's an actual reason why there's so many Jews in the film industry in Hollywood, right? And it's got nothing to do with any conspiracy. That being said, you know, when I started taking it down the road a little bit and I started looking at it, right? And when we're talking about number 2, so they passed this to deal with the students, which are being funded by Soros. Now, guess where else you happen to be encountering a lot of people attacking Jews? Any of you guys want to hazard a guess? How about websites like Gab, Minds, BitChute, a lot of the alt media sites? And I'm not just talking about the people who are pointing out the fact that, because there are Jews definitely involved. There are also Jews actively fighting and resisting this particular type of globalism too. I need to point that out. But, and if V were here, he'd be backing me up and confirming me on this. There is a huge, not a huge segment, but a very significant segment of the participants on Gab who are the Jew behind every blade of grass crowd. They will like literally blame the Jews for everything. They will even go so far as to try to say that the founder of Libs of TikTok is a Mossad agent. I can't remember what her name is right off the top of my head. You know, absolutely intractable, completely unable to reason with them. Everybody is a Jew. Everybody who disagrees with them is a Jew. If you don't agree with them, you're part of the Jewish conspiracy yourself, even if you're not Jewish. That is a very I'm not saying it's the majority segment on Gab, but it's definitely there. It's also over on Minds, and it is definitely over on BitChute. There's a guy on MGTOW TV who every time I post a video up, and I've been allowing him to post up comments on my videos because he's actually got some fairly, again, I don't think he's unhinged to say Nihilist was, but I mean, it's like he blamed, he's got an issue with Jews. So once they get rid of all, and this is the same thing, I got to point out, this is the same thing that they did in Nazi Germany, right? Like the reason why the Germans, why he was so popular right at the start was because one of the first things the Nazis did when they took power is they cleaned up the streets, the beggars, the habitual criminals, the addicts. Actually were the first people that got tossed into the concentration camps, even before the Jews. So when you look at this bill and you look at at how it's structured and how it very specifically says that anybody who's anti-Semitic or attacks Israel is going to get targeted. Well, guess where there's a lot of quote-unquote anti-Semites and people who blame Jews for everything and attack Israel? That would be the alt media. So my line of thinking on this is that this particular bill is a Trojan horse for them to come after the alt media. And they need to come after the alt media because the mainstream media is losing its ability to control the narrative. So they have to get the alt media out of the way somehow. Again, this bill is not going to hold up to a legal challenge because, as has been pointed out, and I'm not religious at all. But I mean, the way the bill is currently translated, you couldn't even read portions of the New Testament in public the way the bill is currently worded. So it's not going to hold up to a legal challenge. But then again, maybe it doesn't have to. All they want to try and do is silence the alt media until after the election. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
All right, I'll try not to say as much because number 2 was really a good topic, and that would have been cool if everybody else would have had an input on that. So I might have just said too much too fast. But that being said, what you were saying and the topic that you're bringing up, it takes me back to when Donald Trump was running for president, and the first time, and I remember Google Plus was out, and I was on there, and I was for the first part of the elections, I was like gung-ho freaking Donald Trump, gung-ho Donald Trump, and I was okay with voting for him and stuff, and I remember on there were groups that freaking made me kind of suspicious. It was real odd, and one of them is like I'd always listen to Donald Trump talk in his rallies, and not one time ever did I ever hear Donald Trump say anything racist whatsoever, okay, in anything he ever spoke. But then I'd get on Google, and these certain groups that were on Google Plus would always talk racist, slanders and stuff like that, and things of that nature. And Donald Trump even had a Jewish rabbi do freaking a prayer at the freaking Republican convention. You know what I mean? So it didn't even fit it didn't fit the way things were going, and I always wondered that. And in that second election, whenever he ran for president, I didn't see very many people getting on the internet talking about racist stuff. So I these days I kind of wonder if maybe that wasn't motivated by Donald Trump, but maybe by people who were his opponents that was setting him up to make it appear like he was racist, because it was always the Democrats that said, well, Donald Trump's this horrible racist man. And I'd always ask him, I'd be like, well, point out to me anywhere where at any point he said that he was against any kind of race or anything like that, you know? And that was one thing that always stuck to me. And this is actually the first time I could bring it up. And that's something that I would like to, you know, add to it too, because, and just so you guys know, the first time he ran for president, I didn't vote for him. I voted for the other guy. I went libertarian, you know. So don't think I'm like a 100% gung ho Donald Trump person, you know. So just with that, I'll shut up and let everybody else talk.
Kelso.
Alrighty. Well, first, let me say that I am a very, very extremely spiritual person. And with that said, religion is mind control. Fuck religion, including but not limited to Judaism. And government is also mind control, including but not limited to the Israeli government, all governments. So fuck government, to include the Israeli government and all others. I don't vote because I don't support organized crime. And no law that they could pass, no bill or anything, is going to make me stop saying this. So it's just like, yeah, you know, they want to come toss me in a cage or whatever. Well, I doubt they're going to do that, because I'm nobody and I'm just one of the hundreds of millions of people out there saying things that people say. As far as alt tech, I think that would be a backfire in our favor. And here is why. You all have heard me rant about fully decentralized networks, and when you have a real fully decentralized internet, you know, you have all these different networks, blockchains, whatever, coming together, using each other's resources, supporting each other, and creating the people's Web 3.0 instead of the CBDC Klaus Schwab, you know, Web 3.0. But even though I've been on that soapbox for years before it even became a major issue, and have talked to developers and stuff about it, they kind of roll their eyes like, yeah, well, you know, things are bad, whatever, but, you know, we don't really need to, and people were too focused on just, you know, I want to boost up my platform to make my platform better and da-da-da-da-da. So it's like it was hard to get people to see it, but now that the tyranny's just been, like, you know, cranked up to 11 more and more, jumping the shark and blasting out of this frickin' reality to clown world levels of insanity, a lot of these developers are starting to go, you know, maybe not only should we go more fully decentralized, but we should start merging these networks. PocketNet is the big one on a really short list of what I would call true fully decentralized networks in every way. Cannot be taken down. You would have to literally shut down the internet in order to take PocketNet down. So their front end service, you know, like a network like anything, you've got front end clients. Obviously, you can download the Bastion client or use the web interface at bastion.com or whatever. But because of that, because of all the open source nature of it, anybody can take that and do whatever with it, right? So for those who don't know, Brighteon, which I'm sure you've all heard of, has recently created Brighteon.io, which is their own customized version of the Bastion front end. So I have, you know, a profile on Bastion, which also means by default my profile, you know, shows up on Brighteon.io, etc. So my point in mentioning this is that as they, you know, if they were to try to do this, as they try to crack down and make things harder on these alternative alt tech platforms, then more and more are going to start making the types of decisions that Brighteon did, because Brighteon's already got like Brighteon.com, Brighteon.tv, Brighteon.social, da-da-da-da-da. They've got all their non-centralized things, or non-decentralized things going on, just like how BitChute's got its thing, and Odyssey was only like semi-decentralized, you know, whatever. But just as tyranny has Streisand affected more of a push for, to bring all this decentralized stuff together, I think this would really make a really hard push for it. Because the thing is, when you've got a fully decentralized network like that, or networks that are connected, or whatever way you want to look at that, the only way to take that down is literally to take down the entire internet. Now, sure, governments can go and target and prosecute and whatever individual people, but good fucking luck with that. About all they're going to be able to do is maybe they'll arrest Alex Jones or whatever. But there are so many people speaking out, and so many more continuing to speak out as the awakening process of humanity continues. It's like, yeah, you don't have the logistical frickin' resources to drag everyone into court. Hell, you don't have the frickin' logistical resources to, in the middle of the night, bust into their house, put a bag over their head, and drag them off to frickin' Guantanamo or whatever. Like, too many people, too much, and over too many countries as well. These fully decentralized networks are spread across all over the place. So yeah, go ahead and go after the largely still centralized alt tech and watch what happens to Web 3.0. Go ahead, I double dog fucking dare you. As for Trump, and what Roger said about Trump, I don't trust Trump. I don't trust any politicians. I don't trust the system. I don't vote because I don't support organized crime. But I have watched a lot of things that Trump has said. A lot I agree with, and a lot I take issue with. But the one thing I have never, ever, 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 ever seen Trump do is make a single racist statement. Has he been sexist? Oh yeah, those claims are true, and who cares? Really, honestly, gives a flying shit at this point. But racist? No way. I've never heard him say a single race. In fact, all the things I've heard about him say about race is, and I'm really glad for all of the Latino supporters and Cuban supporters and black supporters, and I love you all very much, and I appreciate you guys. That doesn't sound like racism to me. I mean, just saying. I haven't heard him talk bad about anyone of any religion or anything like that. Again, there's a bunch of stuff that he said that I do take issue with. I'm not going to go on a rant about it here. It's not the time for it. But just as far as Roger's point, I agree that, yeah, I've never seen him say anything against any race or religion or whatever. And with that, much as I hate to do this to you, I'm really freaking tired. I don't care as much about the rest of the topics. And I'm going to be on my way. So y'all have a good night.
Take it easy, man.
Good night, Kelsey.
Have a good one.
Yep. Catch you later.
Yeah, as I said, and to paraphrase again Voltaire's quote, the people you can't criticize basically are the ones that are in charge. So I'm not going to say any more than that. That's it. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say.
What? Nothing else? Okay.
Yep. Nothing. Which leads
All right.
into, are we getting to Candace now?
No, that's number 5.
Okay, that would have made more sense. But anyway, okay.
He's like tapping his foot on the floor, waiting.
I want to talk about Candace.
He's ready.
When I talk about Candace, it's go use some Orange Man Bat, okay?
Oh, give me that. Oh, that flashlight just feels so good right now. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so the next topic here. All right, now this one we might actually be on for a bit, or we might not be on for very long at all. It depends on what other people have done. So this all started from, I think, either a TikTok video or a YouTube short or a YouTube video, or some guy went down the street. And I think it was Britain, and asked women, if you were lost in the woods, what would you rather run into, a bear or a man, right? And the overwhelming majority of the women picked the bear. when I first heard this, it was like, what? And then, of course, what you started getting almost immediately is you started getting mail. There was like, what are you fucking stupid? Was the first response. And of course, they tried to play that off as, oh, well, guys are getting triggered. And it's like, no, we're not getting triggered. Let me just bring you up to speed with my personal experience with bears. All right, what I got to deal with. Now, when it comes to bears, all right, where I work right now, nobody is allowed to work at this site that I am at without specific bear training. I have worked in remote locations where there is like literally a fence around the entire compound to prevent bears from getting in. If you go further north, like as in the Arctic Ocean north, all of the camps within about a day or so's march of the Arctic of the Arctic, or a lot of the camps north of the Arctic Circle, and specifically the ones around the Arctic Ocean, you have a bear fence around those sites that is large enough and sturdy enough to withstand a polar bear pushing on it. And why do they have those fences? Because polar bears actually hunt and eat humans. They will do so. They're not like black bears or grizzly bears. They will add grizzly bears and black bears will usually, like black bears will hold, grizzly bears will generally tend to hold their position. Black bears will usually take up, but polar bears will start to hunt you. There are places, Churchill, Manitoba, that have so many polar bears wandering around that they have to like literally have polar bear patrols inside the town to make sure that polar bears don't get in. Because hold on a second. Because polar bears hunt people and there are children, and Churchill's an actual town in Manitoba. The bears are phenomenally dangerous. Now, I have had 4 bear encounters in my entire life. I have had either the luck of being in a vehicle, having some distance, or having a barrier between me and three of the 4 encounters. The 4th encounter happened back in 2016. Strangely enough, less than 2 weeks after the event with Miss 2016, but that's kind of a side story. The bear showed up, and the bear. I looked at the bear. The bear looked at me. The bear booked it one way. I booked the other. The bear had it decide. It was a black bear. Had the bear decided to run me down, it very easily could have. Black bears usually don't do that unless they're threatened. But I mean, I was breathing a sigh of relief after that event occurred because I knew how close I had gotten. Now, if you live in bear country, and both Rearson and I have lived in areas where bears could potentially be a problem. There was a particular incident, and I know Rearson remembers this one, that happened in Lake Louise back in '95, where a bear, I think it was probably one of those really, really scrawny, starving, 150, 200-pound black bears attacked a couple of hikers out near Lake Louise. And these 2 stunned idiots decided to cross the bear barrier before the rangers had found this bear, because they had decided that this bear was just misunderstood and needed to see the light of Jesus. Now, that's easily qualified as the stupidest goddamn thing that I have ever heard about in my entire life. There's also the documentary. I don't think either of you have have seen it, called Grizzly Man. No?
No.
Okay. Yeah, all right. He was a guy who routinely went out to bear country throughout the late 90s and early 2000s. He was able to handle himself around bears, and the mistake he made was that he decided he left at the end of the season, and he had some people issues, and he decided, because he got into a confrontation with a ticket agent at Alaska Airlines, that he was just simply going to go, yeah, well, fuck this. I'm just going to go back out to bear country for a couple more weeks, get some video footage, and then come back and drive back down. Except, of course, that he went back out to the same place, and the bears that he had been dealing with, the bears that had considered him to be just background, had all gone into hibernation, and there was a new set of bears down there who were less particular about what they ate. So they did get less particular about what they ate, and they ate him and his fiance. Now, I have heard all sorts of stupid excuses as to what I'm actually going to have to name them all off here. Sorry if it takes me a while to do this, but I have to name them all off. Well, if the bear just attacks you, that's it, it's over. Whereas a man rapes you, you're traumatized for the rest of your life. And well, first of all, one, if a bear attacks you and survives, yeah, you're pretty fucking traumatized. And two, if you do get killed, and hold on a second, and it's over, it's not over, because you still got family and friends who first have to extract your DNA out of the bear's stomach, and then they have to have a funeral for you or service for you, and there's a number of people that are going to be at that service nodding their heads about how fucking stunned stupid you were for even making that choice in the first place. Oh, the bear won't rape you. It's like, yeah, well, bears are not designed to compatibly fit with humans. So that's a moot point. You don't know what the woman's experience is. Well, you don't know what the man's experience is. And it's like, yeah, and by the way, if a bear rips off one of your arms, I have to say that's pretty traumatic too. And yes, I am free to discuss about that, even though I haven't been attacked by bears, or say somebody who's been to war and has had limbs or is permanently injured. I am fully qualified to make a decision and say, yeah, that's going to be pretty goddamn traumatic. And it's definitely probably going to be on a scale worse than sexual assault. I got yelled and screamed at for that one as well, and told that because I wasn't a veteran that I couldn't comment on it. And then my response is, well, because you're not a wildlife biologist, you're not allowed to comment on bears. I also had somebody bring up the fact that bears are primarily eat mostly vegetable matter. No, bears are omnivorous. They will eat whatever is available. Depending on the bear, humans are not necessarily at the top of their food choice, but they will do it. Black bears' attacks are extremely rare, but they do happen. Grizzlies are a whole lot more common, and grizzlies, by the way, are a hell of a lot bigger and a whole lot more dangerous. And then there's polar bears, which I got into earlier, which can and do hunt people routinely. And then, of course, we got into the fact that I don't know bears. I do. Then there was also the, and this is the one that was really mind-blowing. Hold on a second again. I'm getting a really scratchy throat here. Just give me a second. Sorry, folks. Throat is really scratchy today. I don't know why. The one, oh, well, bear attacks are extremely rare. Okay. The reason why bear attacks are extremely rare is that even in bear country, even for somebody who goes out into the wild a lot, you might encounter a bear 2, maybe 3 times in a season. On the other hand, you will as a feminist or a woman, interact with men thousands of times in your lifetime. Now, if you actually factor in the total number of, I don't have the numbers with me, but the total number of actual encounters with bears versus the actual number of attacks, and not the dishonest stats of per 1,000 population, which is what they tend to use, effectively every single woman that would have interacted with a bear over the course of a year, if they were encountering bears at the same rate that they were encountering men, would be dead. All of them. They would all be eaten. They would all be dead because, yeah, that would be the actual rate. Now, the real annoying, other than the actual stupidity and complete and total, oh yeah, well, the lack of notion. And again, like the feminist rationale from this is that well, bears don't rape you, bears don't beat you, bears don't do this, bears don't do that, you know. Yeah, but they will kill you. You know, well, so will men. Well, it's like, yeah, well, it's like, again, right? Bears will kill you at a much higher rate than men will. Has been the complete and total lack of any of women acting like somehow that this particular decision is some kind of an own over men, when in fact it is not even remotely close to being some type of an own. In fact, all it is doing is demonstrating how freaking stupid you are. And of course, right, much like with the anti-Israeli protests, if you go up to them and you actually show them how stupid they are, don't tell them the truth, man. You'll just make them freaking angry. That's literally what's going on. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I have a lot to say on this because, you know, I've encountered just a massive amount of ignorance about this particular issue, and the way feminists are acting as though this is some type of an own when it's not is just, you know, probably the best example of why the manosphere needs to exist. Now, getting into 4B. Now, 4B is another feminist own, or feminist trying to own. 4B is the functioning equivalent. I'm not sure what the exact Japanese term for it is, but I know what the English translation is called: the dried fish lady in Japan. Right? Now, on the surface, it is 4B is effectively feminist separatism, Korean style. They're acting as though feminist separatism is something new. It's not. They're acting like it's all the rage in Korea. It's not. And from the MGTOW perspective on this looks very much, because I mean, Hikikimori, I don't know what the Korean term for it is, but Hikikimori is almost as prevalent in Korea as Hikikimori is in Japan. And Japan has adherents to Hikikimori in the tens of millions. This looks very much like women finding out that guys are just not wanting to deal with them anymore, and they're going, well, you can't fire me, I quit. But it's sort of like, okay, quit, see if I care. The ultimate situation around this, though, is the fact that, I mean, you know, they're acting as though this is like a huge, like in the West, particularly in North America, they're acting like this is like a huge thing, that women in Korea are doing this in the tens of thousands. Well, first of all, I double checked on this before I came on. It's only existed since 2019. So it is definitely not particularly large in Korea. I've seen reports from Koreans in Korea talking about 4B, from Korean women saying it's like, no, this is not that big of a thing. Like, it's being blown all out of proportion. And it's what it is. And I got to point this out. on the surface, it looks like a version of MGTOW. But when you actually start to push through the barriers, because it's like no marriage, no sex, no cohabitation, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay, the no marriage, no marriage part is good. But I mean, MGTOW are not necessarily monks. Some MGTOW do date women. In fact, there was a rather well-known MGTOW content producer known as Human who actually went back and got married about a year and a half ago and finally had to come out and admit it. So, I mean, MGTOWs do go back. MGTOWs will go back to the plantation, for lack of a better term. But, I mean, the whole thing is based around, no sexual relationships, no romance, no childbirth, no marriage. And I mean, again, right? The only one of those that is MGTOW is actually no marriage. And so it's not the flip side of MGTOW. It's definitely not the flip side of a Kikimori, which is the Eastern version of MGTOW at this point. It's Kikimori, by the way, is similar but different from MGTOW. And again, you got feminists acting as though this is some type of an own of men. And it's like, no, it's not. Because again, any claim that feminists make now, or any claims that the mainstream media attempts to make. Oh, hello, V. Good, nice to have you join us here. The whole thing just falls apart upon some scrutinizing fact checking, and I will mention one other thing, and then I will turn it over to Roger, and then after that, Roger V can jump in and introduce himself, and then we'll go to Rierson. What I have, and this is something that I only figured out tonight when I was at work, this afternoon. What a lot of people are missing about 4B and about choosing the bear is that, and of course also the pushback on the protesters on campuses, is that for the first time ever, you are seeing large numbers of men that are not in the manosphere directly finding their balls and not just meekly bowing their heads and taking it. They're actually stepping out and starting to push back. That is something that has been completely overlooked for the most part. And we may have to cover some of this down the road, but the fact of the matter is that this choosing the bear thing is dragging on a whole lot longer than I thought it would. And of course, it also to a certain degree explains what's going on in Warhammer, because the same sort of thing is happening there, right? Games Workshop is getting way more pushback than they were expecting. And it's coming from guys that were not necessarily directly tied into the manosphere, which means that what you're probably starting to see is large numbers of men start to wake up to the scenario around them. And keep in mind that there's been an active, coherent manosphere now definitely since 2013 after the not Duke Lacrosse, the Donglegate incident. But there's been kernels of the modern men's movement that have been in existence since 2006. So there's a generation of boys, of men, who are now coming into manhood that have been exposed to the information that the manosphere has been providing them and are aware of what's going on, which is probably the reason why you're starting to see this level of pushback. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Thanks, Naroki. The one thing that I'm starting to question is, it sounds like to me you have more of a problem with the bear than you do with the women. I mean, is that the case?
Well, no. The fact of the matter is, what's getting to me about this is just the complete ignorance about
I get
the reality of what's going on with bears. If you knew how dangerous bears were,
It's not just that. Like, I agree with you on that aspect, and I can take that even further and say that the whole climate of what's going on in politics and this protesting stuff, it's insane, and most of it isn't even founded on anything rational, you know. Um, I would love to frickin' say that it's okay to get on the internet and just talk smack to one another and get into big fights on the internet and everything. But the thing of it is, there's nothing productive about it whatsoever. I mean, if people today could actually sit down and have a rational talk about serious issues concerning politics, I would be okay with it. But that's not the way it is anymore. People who are conservative don't want to protest against anything because protesting is the big signature when it comes to being liberal and socialist and all that stuff. So, I mean, for me personally, I wouldn't waste my time going out with a sign and protesting about anything. You sit and you see all these guys making complete, asses out of themselves. Excuse my language, but it's the truth. I mean, I don't want to be one of those people. And I don't give a damn about unisex bathrooms. You know what I mean? The house I've been living in freaking has been unisex for freaking all my life. Men use that bathroom and women use that bathroom. I don't give a shit about freaking public restrooms. You know, and you got to ask yourself, why are people freaking even talking about that shit when it comes to politics? It's just completely outrageous. For me, when it comes to bears, all I gotta say is when it comes to a bear, freaking, I don't have to worry about getting away from the bear. I just have to worry about outrunning the person that's with me. You know what I mean? And that's how I look at it. I mean, if a woman would rather freaking see a bear than me, then she's missing out because I'm one hell of a dude, man. I'm cool as hell to hang out with. I respect women as much as I possibly can, but I'm not going to take shit from them either. And I'm not a part of the manosphere as you refer to it, but I can tell you that I have been celibate now for since I'd say a good freaking 12 years, and it's the opposite from what you're talking about. And it wasn't because I hated women or I had problems with women. It's because of the bad decisions I made in my life concerning women. I was the one that chose crazy women, and the women that I was with were crazy. You know what I mean? And it took a long time for me to figure out it wasn't their fault, it was my fault because I chose them. And I chose to become celibate because of it. And you know what? Since I've become celibate, I get along with women now. I don't have to freaking try to prove that I'm not out for just one thing. You know what I mean? So I'm cool with it. I've actually been doing shows with an amazing woman. Her name's Bob Dub, and she had me do a show with her concerning feminism and masculine, the feminine and the masculine. And after I was done with that series, I really honestly believe that our biggest mistake was freaking grouping those two words up with gender, okay? Because there's so many different aspects of both of those that are in not only men but also women. Both of us, we carry both of those aspects, and it's all around us. It's in nature. It's in everything. It's the duality of life. So, when I hear a man who has a problem with talking about femininity, which I have a hard time saying, I see a man who's afraid to freaking look at himself and say that he has a feminine side. Just like with a woman, when a woman has a problem with masculinity, they have a problem with facing up to the masculine side that they have within them. So it's a dance. between men and women. I mean, that's basically what it is. We're dancing. It's the dance of life, really. I mean, you got to have both man and woman. You can't have one. It's got to be both of us, you know. So, I I don't know. I think it's ridiculous how that stuff is being played out, you know, and it's being exploited by politics, by social media. People are using it to freaking get popular. You were on a Jaffe show the other day, and I was talking about that with that Fresh and Fit. You know, I really cannot stand listening to those people talk because they are just utterly disgusting. You know, and the fact that those women are sitting in that room and putting up with being degraded like that just turns my stomach. You know, they should have more respect for themselves than all that. You know, and it drives me nuts.
Okay, well, can I just add something? Because I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't have the patience to watch Fresh and Fit. My observation, first of all, those women that go on Fresh and Fit are not sweet, innocent not sweet, innocent girls. Like, that's not kid yourself here. The lack of knowledge of men's issues that I have seen the women, I'll keep in mind, I haven't watched that much of Fresh and Fit or the whatever podcast, but the lack of actual any knowledge about the male situation that I have seen women on that show demonstrate. And it's like, yeah, and okay, yes, okay, it's true. Not every woman is an Instagram model. Not every woman is a porn performer. Not every woman is up. But I mean, each of these women have got associations, friends, sisters, mothers, and it is very clear that the male situation is in no way really being discussed with women at all. And it's like, yeah, okay, Fresh and Fit is not my personal favorite show to watch, but I mean, it's like, yeah, before we start pointing too many fingers at Fresh and Fit, like, let's point out the fact that the women who are on that show are not exactly sweet, innocent little snowflakes either, not by a long shot.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know. And I've checked out some of them.
They're not poor girls. They're not saints. They're not examples to be held up for women everywhere. But each of those, again, like I say, each of those women have associates, friends, and it's very clear from the lack of knowledge that they're displaying that they don't know what's going on inside the male space right now.
Also realize what I said too. They have absolutely no respect for themselves. Like, as a man, I would never sit in a room with two women downgrading me or any man. You know what I'm saying? That's just not.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean. Yeah, I mean, there is that part of Fresh and Fit, and there's a yin and a yang to that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yes. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I embraced my feminine side, and everybody else likes to embrace it too.
Well, suits onesies don't count. Did I say something?
No. See, Rierson. See, when did I get put in the seat next to Rierson? When did that happen? Yeah, I got a onesie.
Might have gotten a better spot, so it's your own damn fault there, boy.
I do have a onesie. And it looks like a thong on me because my penis takes up most of the space. How you like that?
Okay.
How you like them apples?
Anyway.
How you like them apples? They kind of fall out inside of them.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
One standard for the Red Pill Nation, no standard. Okay, continue.
Okay. Well, so anyway, my feminine side. So I have my long hair, my beautiful smile, and that's about it. The rest, 100% man. I promise you. Anyways, I'm assuming the bear is the consequences of the actions of the feminists, right?
Well,
Is that what we're
okay. I
talking
don't
about?
know what happened here is that somebody did a random survey. If you were lost in the woods, what would you prefer to run into, a bear or a random strange man? And the overwhelming number of women chose the bear, and it was like
Mhm.
having both Rusin and I have lived in areas where bears are located, and it's like on top of it all, when feminists found out about it, they started acting like this was a known, and it's sort of like, don't what? Why are you acting like this is a known? Like, do you know how dangerous bears are? Like, do you know how stupid you sound
Okay.
when you're gloating
Okay.
about this?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, and it's funny. It's. I just love how that vaginal crease is put up on such a pedestal. That golden vagina. You'd rather be eaten by a bear than a man rape you. Really?
Yeah, I covered all that stuff. Some of the excuses that I heard from women about this issue were just absolutely mind blowing. But continue.
Yeah. I don't know. If I were a woman, I'd turn my vagina into an ATM machine. There wouldn't be anything I wouldn't get. What's the integrity of the vagina's worth? I can tell you only its elasticity. Well, okay, no, but seriously,
Can't disagree.
it's just a vagina. It's just, you know, it'll recover. And hell, even though you're indignant, you might actually enjoy a little forcefulness. I gotta take you. You I no, I actually I did a little research on this, and because I wanted to figure out just what it is about the rape that is just so horrendous. Because it's a physical activity that's supposed to feel good, and it's like, oh, even though if it feels good, there are women that have said they orgasm during rape. It's like, okay, so
Well,
what?
I'll let you finish and then I'll say my point.
No. You might add into this. Go ahead.
Okay, my understanding is that rape isn't about sex; it's about power and control.
Okay. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it. The control factor is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, and I know it's just Mother Nature designed it that way. Men are just want to give penis to everything that moves, and women have to be safeguarded. I definitely understand that because women are the engineers of our species. They're supposed to pick the best male that they can in their eyes, and then only procreate with that male. I do understand that much. But for these women that are not trying to have children, for these women who are not trying to have relationships, it's so. I mean, what's the point? What is the purpose of your vagina? What are you doing? You're wasting space. You want to be an inactive member of society. You're wasting space. To get the program or go somewhere. Um, the golden vagina. Control. And at the end of the day, what does that control give them if they're not giving it to anybody? So at that point, they have found some way to dangle that vagina over people's heads and get what they want, in which they have found more value in, I think. We have a culture of simps now, right? So it's like being a whore without being a whore. That a good or bad thing? I don't know. but that's what it is. I don't know. I just wish we could all just get along. You know, they act like they're being raped with police batons or something. Being raped with nightsticks. It's not that bad. See a random guy in the woods. Well, that bear is not going to give you directions out of there, out of the woods. It's not. Okay. The guy, I'm pretty sure 9 times out of 10, that guy's going to help you out of that place because we're protectors. Women have forgotten that we are their protectors. That's our role in the species. Yeah, you've got some psychos out there, some hard up psychos out there, but they don't represent all of us. They don't. And we're talking about how messed up these women are. Let's not target the women in this conversation. I would like to focus on the real cause of the problem. And that, of course, is the government. They want to back all this feminism. They created it to begin with. Okay? They put the country in such a financial crisis that, you can't have a one income household. Now both adults in the house have to work. And that way we can take control of your kids and the school systems. This has been a war on the people since ages ago, okay? It used to be where a man had his woman, had his concubines, had his land, had his children. And they formed a clan. They had this family would have power over a certain region of area, which gave them power within society, which could support or overthrow a government. Now that family structure doesn't exist because the government has gone to war with that, and the government is still trying to destroy the family unit. It's an ongoing process. Now, when they get us to believe that we're equals, men and women are equals, and the man is completely emasculated and the woman's overpowered, and it's when we have equality. That's what it looks like. You're gonna just man won't have any power. The government will feel safe because there's no group of people more paranoid than somebody that works in the government, somebody that holds office of power. There's no one more paranoid. That's the reason why we have the NSA. That's the reason why we have the CIA. Okay? The paranoia, because like any government, they should be afraid of the people, but they don't want that anymore. They want complete control and power. So they will social engineer any kind of psychological warfare on us that will give them that power. Yes, the women are the targets. Now, I'm not saying that a woman shouldn't be able to be a senator or not just a school teacher, a senator, a freaking real estate mogul, a tech giant CEO. That's great. I think that's cool. But at the end of the day, the real power is in the hands of the man, because someone needs to protect that woman. Not be. if we're all beta males, who's going to protect any of these women? You got an overbearing woman with her beta male boyfriend out in the woods, and they come across a bear. Guess what? Before she could say, "Hey, help," the beta male's probably run off. And now look where you're at. Mm, mm, mm. So you don't get a man, and you get eaten by the bear. Looks like a real screw job to me. You got in a situation where you're screwed because you didn't know any better, because you listened to the powers that be. Well, you made that bed, you're gonna have to lie in it. So, with that, I will go ahead and pass it on.
Having lived in Banff National Park, I didn't see any bears when I lived in Lake Louise. It was pretty. It is a really nice isolated jewel. Excuse me. I moved to Banff. I hadn't seen any bears. I've only seen a moose once. Only once. Moved to Banff, and you have to worry about elk a lot more than you will never have to worry about a bear. I think I even saw a coyote. I think I got within about 30 feet of it, and it just took off. I thought it was a dog.
If you went down to the Bow River, I mean, there was a pack of coyotes that would go out onto the during the summer. They'd go out onto the dry riverbed and start howling because it was like literally right across from where I was sleeping at the time.
Yeah, it was a night. Yeah, I was walking around there. I can't remember exactly where that was. I think it was closer to the Cave and Basin, or more down that way. But yeah, if it was a coyote, it fucking took off. Point being is that there were a lot more elk attacks with people getting too damn stupid with them. I remember walking from the Rimrock Staffacom from in Banff itself, not up at the Rimrock. and it was by the high school, and this elk just rears its head up, and I just went, "Oh shit, I will see you later." And I immediately booked it across the street. And that's something I'm probably never going to forget for the rest of my life. Well, I mean, if I remember it vividly enough now, I know it was a cold night too in winter. Fuck, it was just freezing. I'll never forget that. When I did work, I was walking from the Rimrock going down into Banff along the road, and I saw a black bear. And I'm guessing it might have been an adolescent. I don't know. But I kept as much of an eye on that thing as I could. And I'm walking down, and this tourist drives up. He was American. That's all I can say is, there's a bear over there. It's like, yeah, buddy, I fucking know, and I'm a little bit nervous right now. It's like, there was this idiot that, and I know you don't like him, and that's perfectly fine. But Aaron Cleary had talked about this as well too. He put a video on this yesterday, and he's calling bullshit on this one because, not to say that this doesn't exist and it hasn't kind of gone viral, but like there's no actual real sample size, and much like and I used to think that they were funny and comical, but this hour's 22 minutes. Rick Mercer would have stupid things Americans say. And at the time, I thought it was hilarious because, like, fucking Americans don't really think about Canada, for good reason, up until Trudeau. But anyway. But as I look at it now, it's like, okay, well, how many like you're looking. My sister has been involved in reality TV for redecorating one room in their home, and they're looking for it's television, so they're looking for a specific group. They're looking for a specific result. And if you don't say the right thing, well, you're going to get cut because you're not what they're looking for. This is showbiz. You know this, Naoki.
Oh, absolutely, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how many of them actually had said, "Well, I would prefer a man"? You know, like how many? Like we have no idea what the sample size is. We have no idea what the actual numbers are that would prefer to deal with a man or rather would deal with a bear. Like the whole fucking bit. And it's incredibly disingenuous. And let's face it, folks. I mean, really what this is, all that this is doing right now is just sowing more seeds of division, more as if there isn't already enough tension between the two sexes as it is. And not all women are going to say that they prefer the bear, thinking that well, maybe I'll just counsel it. Maybe it just needs to be talked to or whatever. Like, no. I mean, there was the one meme. There was a woman and a bear, and it's like one of these creatures is unpredictable, volatile, and and the other is a bear. And it's like, well, yeah, that's quite possible. It's quite likely. So this is not something that's one-sided. Do not get me wrong. Ladies, if any of you actually are listening, if you think that you can do, if you think you have better survival odds with the bear, you know what? Go out in the middle of the fucking woods and find out for yourself. Like, really go fuck around and find out.
Oh, don't tell feminists that. They'll get really mad when you tell them that.
Well, that they have to find out and actually be accountable for their thoughts and actions. Not my fucking problem.
Oh, they'll run from the bear if the bear's name's accountability, though.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know why that I remembered that Far Side one that with the two polar bears outside the egg. Goes, hey, look out! Crunch on the outside and the soft chewy side. Like, oh my god! But that's the reality of what you have to deal with. I mean, funny enough, went to the zoo with the spouse and with my son, and they've got the Canadian exhibit with the animals, and they got two male polar bears, and where I can't remember exactly where it was, but there was a building around there, and inside was there was a mama bear with a cub, and the mama bear is on her legs, on her hind legs only. And the question is, how do you stack up? It's like, well, I feel pretty. I'm already average height to begin with. That polar bear is probably 12 to 13 feet high. And she's got to feed her kids, protect the kids. And let's not forget, folks, male bears will kill the offspring of other male bears. That's just the nature of that beast. So, you think that you're going to be able to do better than that? By all means, accountability or not, you're not going to survive. And if you do something that stupid, I'm not going to say I told you so. I was like, what, she did? Yep, well, there we go. Karen Cleary pulled up statistics on bear attacks with women that were killed by bears in 2019, 2020, 2022, something like that. I can't remember what the year was. And what he was able to find was only 7 women were killed off. And there was this soy boy feminist that was saying, well, with men killing women, it's 8,000 women have died.
I've already explained the number of bear encounters versus the number of male and men encounters, but continue.
Yeah. And when it comes down to it, the population he came up with the number of the population is proportionately more women get killed by a bear than they get killed by men. I can't remember exactly how we did the math, but it's just one of those. Really, do we have to go through? All right, sure. Then say what you're going to say, because Lord knows you're not going to listen anyway. So whatever. So is this a reflection of all women? No, it's not. But all things being equal at this point in time, with how the sexes are not really not starting to talk to each other anymore, literally. This kind of thing with women jumping on the bandwagon is not helping. I mean, it really isn't. I get it, but then again, if a woman's running from a bear and she runs into a guy, all of a sudden she's going to be like, "You gotta save me," and be like, "No, you're on your own. Sorry, bye." And he just has to make sure that nothing happens to him, and that's it. End of story. So, again, porn is as destructive to men as social media is to women, and stupid, dumb fucking trends like this just only reinforce the social insecurity I believe that women have that they won't readily admit to. Again, I'm only on Crackbook once, maybe twice a week. And there's a former coworker of mine, we're good friends, and she's on there all the time. It's all about women finding their own power, or she's going on about her horse, or it's toxic relationships that always seems to be the problem with the guy. And it's like, come on, you know better than this. Takes two to tango. Just because your experiences went in that direction, you might want to reinforce what's been good in your life. So, fuck me running. It's a woman. Can't say any more than that. Now, as for the B4 movement, 4B, whatever the fuck you want to call it, as I said to Naroki about this one, there are Korean women that are pushing back on this one to basically say, no, it's not like that. And I mean, all it takes is one person in a choir to sing off key, and it messes up the entire performance for everybody, the singers and the audience. Apparently, there are two women that are really ticked off with South Korean society, and they're going to be pushing this thing. Now, at this point in time, it is in its infancy. I don't consider it to be that much of a threat because I wish Jaffe, I could have talked to Jaffe about this one. But from what I've come to understand is that South Korean women are doing exactly what Western women are doing. They're going for the education. They're going for the job. So there's that pressure, and they've got to make money. And it's just apparently things in Korea are becoming really expensive. So they don't have time to really date. And if you don't have time to date, you don't have time for a relationship. If you don't have time for a relationship, you might be able to meet a partner and fuck your brains out and whatever else. And that's fine, whatever. But, like the child birth rate is 0.2%, and that is not sustainable. Japan's bad enough. Korea is worse, if I can believe that. And the women in South Korea that I've seen on social media, I've only listened to 2 or 3 of them, have basically told the Western feminists to basically fuck off, learn what you're talking about, find out what it's like to actually be here, and then we can talk about it afterwards, that sort of thing. So again, it seems to be feminists are leaping before they're looking. They may hate guys, but they sure as hell seem to be pretty damn good at deep throating their own fucking feet up to their goddamn knees. So, idiots. Just fucking idiots. And that's all I got to say on this one. So you're going to timestamp it, and however you're going to do that,
Well, let me add to that. Sure. And I think when it comes to the dangerous man, the ones that they fear, that they would rather have a bear over, when that guy attacks the woman, who's she gonna call? She's gonna call the police. So who's gonna show up? More men, right? Well, it really helps the government. It really helps, if the woman cops show up, they're not gonna fight with the dude. They're just gonna put their gun and put him down. So you got the proverbial death squad rolling around, and in your neighborhood, wherever you are. Yeah, don't be violent at a woman cop show up, because you're probably not going to make that alive.
Well, and I'm going to say as well, too, that if you're going to be mistrustful of men, fine. Most Western guys are at the point kind of going, you know what, your juice ain't worth the squeeze. And I'll say it. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You're worried about getting raped? Maybe you might want to go to Sweden and talk to the women that have been gang raped, likely by non-Swedes, shall we say. So is it warranted for what they're kind of thinking and feeling? Yeah. You're just not there yet. The immigration levels aren't there yet. And yeah, I said it. I went there. Sorry, but not sorry.
I also find the Korean thing a bit suspicious too, because like you just mentioned, Jaffe, and I've had a chance to get to know him a little bit, and we've had conversations about him and his relationship with his wife. And I also have a friend named Tan Hai Tran on Minds, and he's Vietnamese. And the thing about us as being Westerners, we don't really understand Oriental women. They are mean as shit. Okay. Now, that is just straight up truthful, okay? They will not take any kind of crap from any man whatsoever. And that's just how I've always perceived them. And most Oriental men will tell you, don't ever try to frickin' say poetry to a frickin' to an Oriental woman, because they don't put up with that. You know what I mean? They don't want you to love on them and everything. They want you to be the type of man that goes out and brings in the money and stuff like that, and take care of the family unit and things. And they're very, very strict and mean. So
In my experience, with Asians, they want the masculine man. They want the toxic masculinity. They want that guy that'll go wrestle that bear, skin him, and take the meat and feed the kids and clothe them. That's the man that they want.
Yeah, Western jump up on that roof.
Western men. Well, we're being groomed out of that. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
Well, don't you know everything about masculinity is toxic? But the one thing I have noticed in particular about this issue is that this is part of the reason why it's dragging out for so long. And that one meme that I posted up here about women running from a bear that's named accountability is that for the first time, you have feminists strutting around acting like this is some type of that 4B, and this bear thing is some kind of an own. And they're getting major pushback for the first time ever from men. And their usual tactics aren't working anymore, because the manosphere has reached what you've just seen is the first salvo of what's probably going to be a very nasty and intractable gender war. I didn't think it was going to start this soon. There's probably going to be a couple of other shots this year that are going to go this way, but you're going to start seeing stuff like this happen more and more frequently. And I mean, for me, it's a good thing, because it's exposing these toxic feminists and showing everybody exactly what they are. This is the type, I don't have to stand in the shadows anymore and point privately to this guy or that guy about what's going on. Like, I can just go, yeah, you see this? This is how they regard you. And it's not like, yes, it's true. Not every woman is a feminist, but it's like there's there's a level of casual misandry with women, in particular in the West, that has just like, it's causing them, at least it's not as bad as say Korea, but it is absolutely causing the marriage rate to plummet. And one of the reasons why the marriage is plummet is because A, guys are figuring out on their own, but B, the information from what's going on to be if you start from 2006, which is when Duke lacrosse started, the manosphere is now, the modern manosphere is now like 18, 19, 20 years old. And there's a huge amount of information out there that any guy can access. And shutting down the labels doesn't work anymore, because I mean, I didn't bring it up today, but there's this thing called soft guy drizzle, which I didn't get into, and I'm not going to get into tonight, which is basically another concept of the manosphere being brought forward, and you're starting to see this happen more and more frequently. But anyway, is there anybody else have anything more to say before we move on?
I just want to say, man, I love hearing you talk, man. You come up with some crazy stuff. Like, I never knew I'd be having a conversation about women getting eaten by bears until tonight. That's cool as heck.
Yeah, the feminists chose to double down on this, right? It's on them. Stupid is as stupid does, right? And if they're going to be stupid like this, then call them out on it, right? But I mean, it's the numbers pretty much speak for themselves. Rusin and I grew up in northern British Columbia. I was raised from a kid knowing how dangerous bears are, right? And these women are acting, I mean, it's almost as if they think this is like Winnie the Pooh or Smokey the Bear or the Berenstain Bears or those fucking bears from the Charmin commercial. No, that's not what bears are like.
They're bears.
I started giggling when you started saying that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny that this was the topic for tonight, because when you guys called me, guess where I was? I was at a friend's house because she came and got me because her son was being crazy and violent. So she came and got the bear, the proverbial bear, me, and sipped me on him. But anyway,
well, I mean, that's what guys, I mean, at some point, this is all going to...
That's what a man should do.
At some point, all this is going to eventually square itself and level itself out. Now, the whole concept of marriage and relationships is going to be radically different than anything we're familiar with now. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic here. Because we're talking about Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro in the Daily Wire now. And I know Rearson's knee is just shaken over this one because he wants to get at this topic real bad. I mean, he broke out the Orange Man bat and relieved himself beforehand because he wanted to get to this topic.
Industrial size.
Okay, so this all, ironically enough, and we're actually kind of getting into the Israel Judaism show tonight for whatever reason. Ben Shapiro is obviously he's Jewish. I mean, expecting Ben Shapiro to not support Israel in what happened would be like basically not expecting a bird to fly south in the winter or a fish not to swim. I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, no kidding. Ben Shapiro is going to take Israel's side on what's going on with Gaza. I mean, that is absolutely no surprise to me. Candace Owens Candace Owens has had some differences with Ben Shapiro in the past. Ben Shapiro was obviously willing to forgive her the first time and allowed Candace Owens to step back into it. But something is really, this is weird because, I mean, I haven't gotten into some of the stuff that's happened with Anna Kasparian and the Young Turks, which I won't get into, but Candace, for instance, they did a Red Pill show here just a few weeks ago, which we actually did a special on it. And they had a bunch of guys talking about the red pill and the manosphere, and the person who was actually making the most sense about the manosphere was Candace Owens. When a woman is the one talking the most sense about the manosphere, again, there are some exceptions to that. Like, for instance, Janice Fiamingo, Karen Strawn. There's a few women out there who are very well versed in what's going on in the manosphere. But, if Candace Owens, though, who, at least to my knowledge, has not really had a lot of, she did interview Andrew Tate at one point, but has not had a lot of interaction with the manosphere on any level, is the one making the most sense. You got a problem. Well, I'm not particularly religious, but Candace Owens decided that she wasn't just going to take Israel's side on it, and she said something to the effect of Christ is king, whatever, and it upset Ben Shapiro and the other guy who runs the Daily Wire, and they sent Candace or quit or whatever, but basically they went their separate ways. Now, there was, because of the way it went down and the way the Daily Wire appeared to hush it, people wanted to know what was going on. So there was an exchange between Candace Owens and who appeared to be Ben Shapiro, where they agreed, at first to go on a third-party show like, say, Joe Rogan, and have the debate there. Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire wanted to have it on their show, and it appeared to be all well and good, and Candace Owens was going to go on the Daily Wire. They were going to have the debate, and that was going to be it. Well, it turns out that the Daily Wire, hold on a second, my throat's getting scratchy again. So it turned out that the Daily Wire tried to, behind the scenes, muzzle Candace Owens into not having the debate and to try to muzzle her as to commenting as to what happened. And of course, they succeeded in muzzling Candace Owens, but what they couldn't do is sort of like, well, they couldn't muzzle Candace Owens. They couldn't muzzle Candace Owens from saying that she was put on a muzzle or on a not a restraining order, but a no revelation kind of, or some type of no discussion clause to prevent her from talking about what happened with the Daily Wire publicly. She couldn't talk about it, but she could mention that they had filed injunctions against her to prevent her from talking about it. Anyway, things are seriously blowing up now. Based upon, and keep in mind, I was not there's not really anybody on the Daily Wire that I'm an actual fan of per se. Yeah, well, he's no longer there. The guy who did that documentary, What is a Woman, Matt Walsh. But Matt Walsh also really dropped the ball when it came to the gamers, when it came to Sweet Baby and the Gamers. So there's nobody on that show that I'm really super gung-ho about. The only thing I've been really gung-ho about Daily Wire is that, I've just considered them to be part of the alt media. And of course, some of the movie stuff that they've been doing, Lady Ballers, was kind of okay. The more I am looking at how the Daily Wire is acting now, though, I have to consider the very real possibility here that the Daily Wire has gone from being alt media to controlled opposition, just like Fox. They have dropped the ball, for instance, and this is just straight up with me about the manosphere. They have just out and out dropped the ball on the manosphere. All of the major reporters there have dropped the ball at least once. They have overlooked some stuff. I know for a fact that Joker won a contest to appear on the Daily Wire, and the Daily Wire has still not called him in to have a chance to speak about his experiences. So there's been a lot of stuff around the Daily Wire, which has caused me to stop considering them to be a quote unquote news agency, and to just consider them to be controlled opposition. Ben Shapiro's star is definitely starting to set, and in some form or fashion, he's going to have to face down Candace Owens. Now, can Ben Shapiro debate something that's not college kids? Yes, he's gone head to head with Cenk Uygur and a couple of other people over the years, so he can debate people that aren't college students. You know, the fact that he is doing this to Candace Owens, though, looks suspicious as hell. And again, right, they've muzzled Candace Owens to prevent her from talking about it. But I mean, you know, something like this, the truth is going to get out in some form or another at some point. And I got to keep in mind here, like, of all the people over the Daily Wire, and I'm not a fan of really anybody over there, but of all of them over there, Candace Owens was probably the most trustworthy, at least in my book. And again, Candace Owens is a bit of a media hoe, and everybody seems to be forgetting that Candace Owens started out as somebody who came up with an idea called social autopsy, which was a leftist idea. So yeah, Candace Owens is probably more of a centrist than she is a conservative. She's probably center right. And, you know, it's not, she is. So, I mean, yeah, she's not super dogmatic about a lot of things except religion. And here's the other thing I will say about Candace Owens versus any of the other conservative babes out there so far. Candace Owens is the only one of the quote conservative, prominent conservative women that I have seen so far, at least the ones that I'm aware of, that hasn't gone and stuck her foot in her mouth in regards to the manosphere. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Now, with Candace Owens, I mean, she was the black girl that started talking about Trump, right? And she was in support of him and everything. She was getting shunned by a lot of people, I believe. If that's who I'm thinking of, she was on Joe Rogan a few times, and I did like a lot of the stuff that she had said, you know, but like the thing that I've been finding out is like what do you technically call, you know, the alt media or, you know, the independent media sources and stuff like that, because even though they call themselves alternative or independent media sources, they still veer to the left or to the right. You know what I mean? Like the Young Turks, okay? When I was naive and I was first getting interested in trying to get involved with, you know, doing something with politics and stuff, I fell for a group that they were a part of called the Wolf Pack. And the one problem that I do have with government here in the United States is PAC money. And I don't care what anybody says, freaking PAC money is ruining our government. It's ruining our country, and it needs to go. But I fell for this wolf pack because this wolf pack said, we're going to lobby and we're going to get rid of freaking PAC money, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And we're going to contact the senators and we're going to contact the representatives and we're going to have them vote on doing a freaking convention, you know, so that they could change the laws to where PAC money wasn't going to be used. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. So I got involved with it and started making phone calls and sending out letters to representatives and everything. And the more I kept getting involved with these people, the more I noticed they were talking about having people here in Illinois going to rallies for Democrat uh, representatives who are running for office, which Lightfoot was one of them. If you guys don't know who that is, that's the mayor of Chicago now. But they wanted these people in this wolf pack to freaking wash, one hand washes the other. We'll vote this in the House of Representatives if you freaking come out and you support us at rallies and stuff like that and cheer for us. So I quickly started learning that you got to be careful with these people, and you can't freaking jump on a cause because a lot of it is about one hand washing another. You do a favor for me, and I'll do a favor for you, and that goes along with the media. It goes along with everything. I wouldn't trust the freaking wolf pack or the Young Turks as far as I could throw them, because that's what they are. They're just fakes, Come to find out, the only thing that they wanted in that whole thing was to get rid of the freaking super PAC that the Republicans are using. Okay, and they had no intentions of getting rid of all PAC money, just that one, and it's just one example of many that they were talking about. And earlier you were talking about AstroTurf organizations. These people are running around and they're pretending to be grassroots organizations, but in reality they're AstroTurf organizations, and that's what they do. They come into your state, they pretend to be freaking a grassroots organization, and in reality they're connected with other states and other organizations that have something nefarious or however you say that involved behind it. So it's a matter for me that I have to, it's really hard is what I'm saying, to figure out what this alternative media really is, because I really haven't found any that's alternative. It's just a name. So that's really all I got to say on that.
V.
Yeah, well, Roger, I suggest you listen to my show, the Red Pill Hardcore Radio Show. I think it'll be more of what you're looking for. But yeah, as far as Candace Owens is concerned, I don't have an opinion really. I think, I mean, and this is what we have. This Nebuchadnezzar beta male. I think he's a fine example of what the New World Order is looking for, as far as what a man should be. He sleeps in a separate room away from his wife. His wife runs the household. Yeah, Ben Shapiro is a guy. He's such a wuss. If I had to be in a bar fight with somebody and have somebody as my partner on my side, he'd be the last man on earth I'd choose. There's probably a few women I would choose before him. But anyhow, but here he is causing problems. He wants to stop someone's freedom of speech, stop them from saying their opinions, or punish them for having a separate opinion from him. Well, then he's the biggest hypocrite in the world. I've seen his little speeches that he gives in colleges and stuff. His actions with Candace is in direct contrast in a lot of things he's preached about on his big soapbox. He's got to be a big one because he's very little. So I mean that's all I can say about that.
I will also point out that Ben Shapiro's sister Abby Shapiro can definitely compete with Sydney Sweeney in the boobs department. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rearson.
I'm going to take it a few steps further with what V was just saying here. It seems like he can only debate naive college kids with their leftist viewpoints and his conservative. I'll use that term very loosely because I don't know what to. I don't know what to label them as anything now except controlled opposition. I mean, it's what he's done, and I'll use the word that Hillary did, is deplorable. It is absolutely deplorable. I was happy that he took on. He had an interview with Gina Carano when she got dismissed from Disney for expressing different opinions. Fucking weasel is what he is. And I will say that my feeling, and I'll get to that here in a moment as well too. My apologies if you had already said this, Naroki. I just wasn't around. I had to go to the bathroom. But when he had his rap video with Tom McDonald, I was fine with Tom singing, doing his usual thing, and then Shapiro gets on there. I'm kind of going like, yeah, I can't listen to this little fucker. I just can't. You'll have to pardon me for having a sense of vindication of my feelings about not wanting to listen to this guy, because it just didn't work for me then, and it won't work for me now. And I will never listen to that. I will never watch that video or listen to it or download it because he's on. Like, I have no respect for the guy. This, I think, will also contribute to a down. I won't be the least bit surprised if there's going to be a significant enough backlash, polite backlash, where people just don't listen to him. Or I'm wondering how many people that unsubscribe because, like I said, he is a little weasel. And for someone who is intelligent, and he keeps going this, well, facts don't care about your feelings. Well, you know what, Ben? Right now, with what's going on in Israel, enough Americans have a lot of other things to worry about besides what's happening half the world away. And between Gaza and Israel listed as separate topics of what are you most concerned about, they don't even make it into the top 10. There's apparently somewhere like numbers 15 and 16, which is what I've been saying about myself for a long period of time. I've got a lot more shit to worry about. I need to look for work. I'm hoping I can find a place that isn't going to be DEI, diversity, and all that other fun shit, because I'm an older white male at this point. I'm concerned about the Canadian economy. I'm concerned about where Canadian politics are, where they're going, where it's headed. I'm concerned about the cost of everything because, again, we've got a carbon tax on gasoline and diesel, and that affects everything that you buy here in Canada. Inflation is going up. The winter is going through the fucking roof. Going back to the whole government spending, like it did when we had our COVID emergency relief, whatever. And there's other things that are on my mind, and Israel is not one of them. It never usually is, because I have no interest in the country. I don't give a flying fuck for the area. I'd apologize for being upfront and honest, but I'm going to be upfront and honest. I don't care. I'm more interested in what happens in Japan because of my wife and my in-laws overseas. So Ben has his religious fervor for the homeland, shall we say. That's fine. Get it through your thick fucking skull, or get that through that little fucking beanie on your back of your fucking head. Or maybe that's covering up that he needs to have a vagina put in there because someone needs to put some sense into his fucking skull. No fucks given, folks, and again, no standards. This is just absolutely. I'm actually glad that this has happened because this only, in my opinion, reinforces my belief that Shapiro is controlled opposition. Now, he's the co-founder of the Daily Wire, but he's not the president. And I wouldn't be surprised if that decision was made so it wouldn't give the viewpoint of being pro-Israeli, which the Daily Wire seems to be blatantly than it is otherwise. Again, I don't really care too much about his religion, but actions speak louder than words, and his credibility as a intellectual has taken a pretty big fucking beat. I'm hoping that this is a big beating that that they reconsider what they're doing, but they probably won't. And it is most likely a case of, well, the damage is done, so there's nothing more that they can do except just basically, well, whatever happens to the Daily Wire happens to the Daily Wire, but I'm not watching anything that Ben Shapiro is on anymore. Not Jeremy Boring or anybody else that's on their staff, and certainly not Joe Walsh, because I don't know. I consider Walsh to be now more or less intellectually lazy. I could be wrong, but hey, you get what you deserve. You reap what you sow, and ultimately, these guys had it coming. So that's all I got to say. Back to you. After you unmute yourself.
I'm fulfilling a request from V at the moment. Don't worry, V, they're coming. We just have to finish off covering my section of the show here. Okay, so the last topic. Oh, and this one is really interesting. Again, this is not a guy who I have. Strangely enough, him and Nick Fuentes and Ben Shapiro have had their differences over the years. Nick Fuentes, again, is not really a guy that I agree with a lot. Nick Fuentes also struck me, and this is since we're going down the Yiddish rabbit hole. Nick Fuentes is one of those Jew behind every blade of grass guys, or at least he strikes me as being that way. He is the second most censored man on the internet after Alex Jones. He has been booted off of YouTube. He's been booted off of Facebook. He's been booted off of Twitter. He recently got reinstated. Now, the timing of this is kind of curious, and it got pointed out that Elon Musk is taking a major risk bringing Fuentes back, but he's already brought Alex Jones back. So Nick Fuentes, Alex Jones can be hyperbolic and can say a lot of extreme things, but Alex Jones tends to, again, I don't know enough about Nick Fuentes to actually comment about how much stuff he gets right versus how much stuff he gets wrong. Because Nick Fuentes is not his style didn't really appeal to me. Like literally, and this is odd because we're just talking about Ben Shapiro. The first time I actually knew about about Nick Fuentes. He was talking about Ben Shapiro when he was doing a throat slashing gesture as he was talking about him. That's the type of guy Nick Fuentes is. I've listened to a couple of interviews with the guy. He doesn't seem all that extreme, but then again, I mean, he also, and this is just because of where I am personally, Nick Fuentes seems to be another one of those alt-right guys that seems to want to stay absolutely ignorant about the issues inside the manosphere. And I wasn't particularly impressed when Pearl brought Nick Fuentes on at the same time as Rollo Tomasi. Neither was Rollo, by the way. I really personally don't care if Nick I barely even care. No disrespect to any of you guys. I barely even care if you three guys like whether I'm involved in the manosphere or not. The right, when it comes to the manosphere, there seems to be a level of wanting to be willfully ignorant. Regardless of the situation, regardless of the fact that Nick Fuentes is, by definition, based upon some of the stuff that he's been alleged. Again, I haven't heard it because I don't listen to the guy very much. Is one of those Jew behind every blade of grass crowd and has said a bunch of quote unquote anti-Semitic material over the years. The fact that Elon Musk would choose to bring him back on, and especially since we were talking about topic number 3 and how all of this kind of just neatly segues in. I mean, Nick Fuentes is a bit of a risk. I mean, he was literally on a no-fly list at one point. I don't know if he's been removed or not because he's definitely flown places since he was put on that no-fly list. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the guy. Putting him on is actually based upon some of what, again, I don't know that much about the content of what he's heard, but based upon some of the stuff that I've heard, is actually, in a way, even more of a risk than bringing back Alex Jones. That being said, though, he, to my knowledge, has never said anything that would be equated to a call to action. And I'm going to have to assume, given his political stance right now, I think he has been rather critical of the anti-Israel protests, although not too much, obviously, because he's obviously not a fan of Jews or Israel for that matter. But again, right, Nick Fuentes is a bit more is much more, in a way, even though he's not as well known as Alex Jones. Nick Fuentes is a bit of a loaded gun, and he's not. I mean, just saying for myself, if I get to that level, Nick Fuentes is probably not a guy that I would have a lot to deal with. However, good on Elon Musk to bring him back in. To quote a couple people that I've heard about Nick Fuentes being back on, if Nick Fuentes' ideas, and I don't know them well enough to comment on them in an effective manner, but if Nick Fuentes' ideas are really, truly hateful and anti-Semitic, and really talk about the Jews in a really negative light, then sunlight is the best disinfectant. If he's not, then, well, Twitter/X just got themselves a new interesting personality to be involved in. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Actually, let me take Roger's turn here because I gotta go. I'll say this before I get off of here. I don't know much about the Nick Fuentes guy. I didn't even know about him until he got onto the Alex Jones show with Ye. I had to learn about him afterwards. Um, as far as his anti-Semitism, um, okay, so we have TLB Talk, right? I know it's down right now. It's being rebooted. We have a grand reopening. It's going to have some features that I wanted to have added to it, and it's going to be so much better.
Yeah, okay.
But
You got your photos, by the way. I put the photos up for Abby Shapiro.
I saw it. Oh man, she should have been Snow White. Anyways, when I talk to people about TLB Talk, my social network, I tell them, you should come on, but one caveat: if you're racist, I don't want you there. You can forget it. You can forget my offer if you're racist. Now, the thing about censorship, with people like Nick Fuentes, um, it's not. There's something you shouldn't have on a social network besides human trafficking. Um, I don't know, selling weapons for terrorism, maybe illegal drug trafficking. Besides those things, the only thing you shouldn't have on a social network is racist. Being a racist makes you anti-social. Okay, it's almost the very definition of racism. You're anti-social. So to spread anti-socialist ideas on a social networking platform, well, I mean, you might as well be cancer in a body. Of course, you got to remove that. You got to remove it. Now, if he's going to, and by the way, I've had this experience on Gab, and I think it's really funny because of Nick Fuentes joining forces with Ye. I've had many of anti-Semitic people just all out racist hate, saying, we should join up together. The black people should join up with the white people and get rid of the Jews. It's like, you must really hate Jewish people. You want to team up with the black people. That's some hate, by the way. But no, I mean, he shouldn't be on a social network. If I have people now, when it came to TLB Talk, if you're talking smack about Zionist, okay, the elite class, the Bilderberg group, stuff like that, hey, I'm right there with you. But as soon as you start saying the Jews this, the Jews that, I'm going to get up your ass. Okay? A lot of people just, they don't know the difference. Some don't, but some do. And there were some that were refusing to change their language. It's like, oh yeah, you hate the Zionists, not the Jews, right? Like, no, the Jews. I'm like, wink, wink. You hate the Zionists, not the Jews, right? No, kill all Jews. Okay, all right, later. Tried to give you a shot, right? Yeah, there's just no place for racism on a social network. Period. So if Elon wants to take up the responsibility for things that he's saying, and which essentially that's what he's doing, I hope he realizes that he's taking responsibility for everything Nick Fuentes has to say. And when he comes to bite that bullet, God damn it, he better bite it. It's all on him. And with that, guys, I must go. I must go. It's been good. I'll try to get on the show on time next time. All right.
Great hearing
Thank you, V. Roger, you're up.
Oh, okay. So, you're talking about racism. You're talking about racism in the media and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, Nick Fuentes is a
Oh.
alt-right. He's the second most banned person on the internet
Yeah.
after Alex Jones. Yeah, definitely anti-Semitic, definitely a bit of a racist. He's definitely alt-right, unlike Alex Jones. Yeah, he's definitely more of a loaded gun.
See, people get me mixed up because, like, first of all, when I was talking to you before, I said, that I'm not anti-Semitic, and a lot of people don't understand that even though I'm saying I'm not anti-Semitic, it doesn't mean that I don't go in and actually look at what these people are saying, and when I do that, what happens is I find out the truth. And not only do I find out the truth, but I also can recognize when people are pushing like the Fourth Reich propaganda, you know what I mean? So when I go onto any kind of media source at all, that even includes YouTube, it includes Minds and all the other platforms like you're talking about, I can pretty quickly grab, information that's actually just Fourth Reich bullshit, skinheads trying to push an agenda, and they're real smooth about it too. Like they'll try to pretend like, oh yeah, I'm not racist and I'm not anti-Semitic, but then they keep pushing freaking these agendas and these same things that's been freaking said for the last 200 years on you in the disguise of being alt media. You know what I mean? And that's everywhere. And I'm not saying they know what they're doing. I'm not saying that they do, but it just seems odd, because that's exactly what they do, and they keep repeating it over and over again. I do believe that there's a lot of people who fall for a lot of the stuff that's being preached, and they have absolutely no idea that what they're saying is racist propaganda. I don't get involved with freaking the whole border garbage when it comes to freaking politics, because that's freaking anti-Semitic. That's racist, actually. That's one of the first things freaking Adolf Hitler freaking was big against, was this is our country, speak our language bullshit. You know what I mean? And that is what I learned, but I had to go and find that stuff out, and to be honest, a lot of the stuff that I learned from a Jewish guy about this stuff, and his name was Edwin Black, and he talked about the transfer agreements, and the stuff he said completely blew my mind. It took me into a whole different level of understanding. Okay, there was a lot of things that were going on back then that we just never learned about because it was never taught to us. So all I can say is it's about discernment. You know what I mean? You have to learn how to discern between the true and the false, because there's a lot of people out there that's going to try to freaking push a lot of garbage on you that's just hate, and there's a lot of people out there who actually did the research and know what's going on, so that's really the best I can say about it.
Rearson, take us out.
Yeah. I've heard the name bandied or be bandied about. I've never looked into the guy one way or the other. Ultimately, you either believe in free speech or you don't. And regardless of what I may think or what you may feel or whatever the case may be, either we live in a society where people can say what's on their mind and they can express themselves, as long as it doesn't lead to violence or can be traced to a violent act. I don't really care what you're going to be saying. There are a lot of things with the feminists that I'm picking up on a little bit here and there that I don't like, but this is the challenge of either you really are a proponent of free speech or you're not. I don't know what's going to happen with all of this with Fuentes, and as I said again, I'm not familiar with any of this stuff, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to look into it. I don't have any inclination to do so. I really don't care. If I'm going to be looking at it from $20,000 to $30,000 feet up in the air, under the lens of it being, no, maybe this is part of the plan. And that exposure of the evil of what's going on. I think that this might actually be a necessary step. It's going to be, it could very well be very uncomfortable. But again, the only thing that's Semitic that still survives would be is the Jewish language as it is now, because ancient Egyptian was part of the Semitic group, I guess is the best way to say it. And again, to use the modern twisted definition of anti-Semitism, my anti-Semitism is like as V had said, are the Zionists, or shall we say the Talmudic Jews. I have a big problem with them because they have this massive superiority complex that everybody else is just cattle to them. And I really don't like that. I'm really not impressed with that. For the average person of the Hebrew faith or the Judaic faith, or however you want to phrase it, again, if they worship, if their curriculum, belief system, whatever you want to call it, is part of the Torah, then I don't have an issue. I really don't care. So, yeah, now that I think about it, I've got a feeling that Fuentes is probably somebody like him is going to be needed to wake people up to the dark side of society that the likes of probably the Rothschilds are part of. Now, but at the end of the day, you have to, as Roger said, you have to discern what's going on, and you need to figure out for yourself what it is that you want to look into, what you're going to believe, whatever the case may be. So, I don't partake on X. I think I've got excuse me, I think I've got 2 or 3 accounts, but I don't use them. I don't even know. I'm not even sure if I could even retrieve my accounts to begin with. So, yeah, I really don't care. The fallout from this will be interesting. What that's going to look like, I have no idea. And I'm not going to make any predictions. So that's all I have to say. Back to you, Minorca. You want to wrap this whole thing up?
Okay, well, that concludes it for tonight. Yeah, I don't have enough interaction with Nick Fuentes to actually say one way or the other. I was never a fan of the guy. The times that I have run into him, it's been a slightly negative opinion. I get why I understand why he's been censored. My personal belief is that sunlight is the best disinfectant. If Fuentes gets sent banned again from Twitter, it will probably be because he deserves it. Because if he can't make his case without, engaging in some of the activity that he's been, I say allegedly because I haven't looked into it, right? Don't have enough of a frame of reference to actually comment solidly one way or the other on this. But that's really about it. So unless anybody else has anything more to say, this has been a rather 374 has been rather an interesting show. Thank you everybody for showing up tonight. Just remember, I am at Patreon as the Roki5. I am Facebook, Minds, Gab, MeWe, and Getter, and MGTOW TV, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, Brighteon, and I am on YouTube, but again, right, I only put up stuff at YouTube, so for ease of uploading elsewhere. Thank Roger V, Kelso, and Bruceson for showing up